Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm doing a review on the most requested locomotive in the last 6 months. I've had an unusual amount of requests for this locomotive, and I'm sure it's tied into the recent news about it. I am reviewing the Athearn Genesis 4884 steam locomotive number 4014, the big boy. So we'll be taking a look at this locomotive and seeing what you get for an MSRP of $649.98. Let's take a look. Okay, what you have here is the classic Athearn Genesis blue box for the steam locomotives. Very nicely done. The blue and gold and the nice labels they started adding at the end a couple of runs ago on these steam locomotives, or the most recent runs. But inside, this is the first time I'm opening this, and I like to do this with you guys recently, just to open the box with you to see what you get inside, give you the true customer experience. What we have here is the manual. Talks about the big boy locomotive, has an exploded parts diagram, has parts list and numbers in case you have to order anything. It has more exploded parts, CVs for the Tsunami decoder that's installed, and functions up to F12 for the Tsunami decoder that's installed. And that's it. It's really just a 10-page booklet, and it's got a nice gloss cover, nicely done. Then you've got the limited warranty card that you'll send in to Athearn, so you have your 1-year limited warranty. And then you have what everybody really wants out of this, and that's the steam locomotive itself. So we're going to go ahead and pull this out. I'll start with the tender. In recent runs of this locomotive and other locomotives, Athearn has improved their packaging. So there's the tender. This is a coal tender. As most of you know, the 4014 locomotive that Union Pacific is working on, they plan on converting to oil, but nothing's 100% for sure yet. But nice coal load there, nice details, and nicely done. And a nice little indent right here where the coal kind of starts to settle in to the coal area. So real good job, and we'll go over that in more detail in a minute. I'm just going to set this on the side on the track, and we'll go over the steam locomotive itself. This is a very long locomotive. You don't really realize it until you get it, how long these things are. And up in the entrance to Omaha is a actual big boy, and I've been there to visit that locomotive, but didn't realize how big it is. And it is heavy. This one is heavy. They put a nice plastic wrap. It's like this stretchy plastic stuff. It basically protects it against the harshness of the case, even though the case is well done and the bracing is well done. But here's the big boy locomotive, straight out of the box. Doesn't appear to be any damage or any problems, just from what I see right now. But let's get this on the track and start covering some details. Once the locomotive's out of the box and on the track, it's very simple to get it running. All you have to do is connect this bracket and this plug to the tender, and you're ready to go. Now let's go over some details of this locomotive, starting from the front. First, here you see that the 4014 has number boards. These are lit number boards, and I'll show you that once I dim the lights and show you the headlight and the operation of the locomotive. It also has a nice bell here, a very nice detailed bell. Looks very realistic with a slight metallic tint to it. Then working on our way down to the platform, you've got the front platform with grab irons. Very nicely done and very sturdy. It's got no flexibility in it whatsoever, so I mean it barely moves, but it's really sturdy and really nice, thick but yet prototypical detail, and a nice safety tread on the platform up front. You've got the headlight, which is an LED headlight. I kind of excited you guys on the Challenger review when I said that Athearn had switched to an LED headlight. Their steam locomotives have always had LED headlights, so it isn't really a change. But it is indeed LED. Working on the front, you've got the Union Pacific shield here. It is legible and clear under magnification. Working our way down, you've got the cow catcher and the coupler cut levers. Speaking of couplers, this has a coupler pocket that can be installed to mount a front coupler, but as you see here, there's just a clear cow catcher, so that comes out and you can put in a coupler pocket for a front coupler. Now let's work our way to the body of the locomotive and more details. Working our way to the side of the smoke box, you have the smokestacks, which actually accept a soothe number 9 or 10 smoke unit. Now if you want to see these smoke units in operation, I'll refer you to my Challenger video because it's the exact same. You drop them in, number 9 or 10, you add the fluid, and they smoke. And it's a pretty realistic look, and you can add them to both stacks. They are plug and play. There's little metal contacts down there, so once the soothe units are added, they're ready to go electrically to provide the smoke. Also, looking at the front, you'll see that it has some very nice individually applied details. You've got the whistle, you've got the safety tread on here, it's a see-through walkway, you've got grab irons, you've got safety valves and pipings all the way down this locomotive. Down to the wheels, you have blackened metal RP25 wheels. That's very nicely done. You've got eccentric cranks that are operating in the correct direction, and I'll show you that in operation here in a bit. Let's go ahead and move to the back cab of the locomotive and the tender. Now that we're at the back of the locomotive, let's look at the cab details. And around the cab, you've got a nice generator here. You have a roof hatch that's adjustable. You can open and close it. It stays in an open position by itself. You've got nice details on the boiler itself, nice little rivets, and the details of the raised rivets are very evident here. The boiler half top is right here and looks nice. The print on the cab, or under the cab, number 4014, looks very well done. And it's legible under magnification because it's almost needed for magnification, but it shows 4884 on the steam locomotive and some other details like the bilge gear. Adjustable cab windows, adjustable cab doors, and it's got a nice boiler head, back head with full details and printed gauges. So I can't really capture that on film, but it looks very nice. The inside detail is done well on this locomotive. Now let's work to the tender. I think this angle really captures the little indentation in the coal load here. You see the coal is usually fed down through to the front of the locomotive into the boiler, and the coal usually has an indent in this area because this is where it starts caving in, and they captured that really well. You get some nice rivet detail on this tender. It says fire hose only on the side in red. That's accurate for the prototype. And Union Pacific on the side is very clear and legible too. One thing I do want to mention is this overall locomotive is kind of a matted or matte, depending on how you say it, black. It's not a shiny or super glossy black. It's the same consistent paint job as the 844 locomotive that they released, the 484, and 3985, the 4664. So Athearn staying consistent with the 3 steam locomotives for Union Pacific. It does have McHenry couplers, which are plastic couplers, but as I've always told you guys, I don't see what the big deal is because I've never had them break when hauling things. I don't haul huge loads, but I think it holds up to what I need it for, so I have no problems with the McHenry couplers. And Athearn owns them, so it's easier for the company to install those. So now we're at the back of the tender. You see they have nice deck handrails, a ladder, rear handrails. You've got rear marker lights. You also have the front marker lights that I didn't mention that were at the front of the boiler, the front of the locomotive. McHenry coupler on the back. The sound is also contained, the DCC board and sound is also contained in the tender. So that's just something to know. And there's an LED rear light back here as well. Water fill hatches, you see here, they're nicely detailed and added. And the motor, the power behind this, is a 5-pole skewed armature motor with 2 flywheels. So just wanted to let you guys know what kind of power you're dealing with in this locomotive. That should equate to some smooth operation, but we'll see here in a minute when we go to operation. So I've dimmed the lights so you can see the LED headlight and lit number boards from this Athearn Big Boy locomotive. Keep in mind the front marker lights and rear marker lights are not lit, but I'm going to go ahead and apply track power so you can check this out. The locomotive also may go through a start sequence. This is literally the first time I'm turning this locomotive on, so I'm not sure what to expect, but it may go through a start sequence as well. Killed a little bit more light so you can see the lit number boards. It has a little bit of a glare in this video, but it's well done. There's not too much shine through. It actually looks very well done for a model. Now let me go ahead and turn on the headlight so you can see the LED headlight. So the headlight may or may not be showing up on film because of the lights, and I'm trying to cut out as many lights as I can, but it may be cutting out. So I'm going to cut out all lights so you can take a look and actually see what the headlight looks like. Okay, now all you should be able to see is really the lit number boards and the headlight. I'm going to go ahead and move the headlight, or move the locomotive. There doesn't appear to be any code 17 lighting. The headlight stays the same brightness, whether it's stationary or moving. So let's get some lights back on so we can cover some operation. Now we're going to cover some functions of this locomotive, F1 through F12, so you can hear some of the sounds. I usually don't take the time to cover all of them, but we'll at least pick a few. F0 is the headlight, obviously. F1, here's the bell. F2, the whistle or horn. In this case, the whistle because it's a steam locomotive. F3 is the short whistle. F4 is dynamic brakes, but that's for diesels only, so I don't know if it'll do anything on this locomotive. So on this locomotive, F4 has a steam release effect. F5 is an effect light, which I believe may control the number boards, or F6. Oh no, apparently not. F8 is muting the locomotive, which we won't do, but you get the point. F9 is squeal or release. So F10 is the coupler. F11 is the injector. That was the coupler again because I was turning it off. And F12 is the water stop. So there you have the functions of the locomotive that are in the pamphlet. I'm sure there's other functions. Tsunami has more functions. Okay, now I'm going to mute it so it doesn't upstage me here. But basically, it has more functions, the Tsunami decoder, that aren't listed, that you can go to Tsunami's website to check out. Also, keep in mind that this locomotive has multiple steam options for the whistle that you can program, and the bell. You can change all these sort of CVs, which are configuration variables for those that don't know CV programming, but you're not stuck with the whistle and the bell that are on this locomotive. I think sound prototypical, but there are some options for those folks that want some options available. Now let's move on to actual operation of this locomotive. Now we're going to see how this locomotive operates at slow speeds with that 5-pole skewed armature motor that has 2 flywheels. So I'm going to call out the speed steps. I'm just going to go over the first few so you can see how it operates at slow speeds and see if you can hear any sounds that are overly evident in this locomotive with the sound off, and then we'll turn the sound on and run it by also. So I'm going to set it to 128 speed steps and start at 1, see how the locomotive reacts. Keep in mind this locomotive hasn't been broken in. It is not smooth at 1 speed step, it is a little jerky, but it is moving along. And also keep in mind that with those configuration variables, you can set start voltages and things to smooth the locomotive out more as well, and tweak it to the way you want it. That is speed step 2 that you're seeing right now. Very quiet locomotive though. Sounds aren't on and you're not hearing much sound from the actual locomotive. No grinding sounds or things like that. There's 3 speed steps. And now you've got almost a completely smooth motion on the wheels. Very prototypical without any jerks at 3 speed steps. It's completely smoothed out. Alright, let's go ahead and turn the sound back on because I want you to hear the chuffing of the steam locomotive. And we'll put it in reverse and go back through those. I'll just set it at speed step 3 actually so you can see it in reverse. This catching on my grade crossing a little bit. It has nothing to do with the locomotive. My grade crossing just sits a little high. So the sound's back off, but that's the operation forward and backwards. Forward 1 through 3 speed steps, and backwards I just went straight to 3 speed steps. You have a front and rear LED light that lights up depending on your direction, so you have directional lighting. And when it's negating the curves, you got to keep in mind that Athearn recommends a minimum of 22-inch curves. So with that said, guys, I think we've covered about as much as I can cover, so let's wrap this review up. So here are some final thoughts on this locomotive. Athearn has really delivered a solid product in this big boy locomotive. I think they've done an excellent job. The MSRP is $649.98, but as most people that have been in this hobby know, there are some discounts out there that make this locomotive price down in the high 3s to mid 4 range, depending on which hobby shop you're looking at. Plenty of online retailers, plenty of brick and mortar hobby shops that have those options available for you to get a discount off this locomotive. But it's a great locomotive. You can also order it direct from horizonhobby.com. I'll put the link below. And that price there is $649.98. So let's cover some thoughts of this locomotive. The weight is ridiculously heavy. It's a large locomotive and it's got a nice build to it, so you're not going to have any pulling problems. But if you have smaller radiuses, be careful because Athearn recommends that 22-inch minimum radius. The drive is smooth, the sounds are great. I didn't catch any articulation in the sounds, but other than that, the Tsunami has a nice bass to both the whistle and the chuff sounds of this locomotive, and the bell has a nice sound too. And if you don't like them, you can change them with configuration variables, the CVs. You can get in the book and get online to study up on how to change CVs. It's really not that complicated. So with that said, I do recommend this locomotive. I think it's a great solid locomotive, a great product. You can get those soothed smoke units and put them in and have smoke on this unit. And many people are fascinated with 4014. The idea that it's going to be coming back in probably around the year 2018 or 2019 with the UP Steam program out in Pomona, California right now, getting it ready to bring it back to Cheyenne, Wyoming to get it ready to restore. So this locomotive will actually be on the rails. The only difference is the tender. There's still not 100% it's going to be oil burning. It will most likely be oil burning. But I was looking in the parts diagram and I noticed that there's a possibility, I haven't done enough research, that the coal tender could be swapped out for an oil tender, just the parts up top. So for those guys that really like taking locomotives apart, they can look at that. Or there's a possibility, I'm not sure, so don't quote me on this, that Athearn may release a correct version of 4014 in the future. Like I said, we've got about 5 or 6 solid years before the prototype 4014 hits the rail, so we'll just have to see what it ends up looking like. They may do some other changes that Athearn or other companies may want to capture as well. So with that said, I'm going to leave you with a run-by of this 4014 locomotive. I know there's lots of people chomping at the bit to see 4014 run again, so I'm going to put a little consist together of what it would look like running today with a modern excursion set and 2 water bottles, or auxiliary water tenders as you official folks call them. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time right here on my channel. Take care.